Tonight, the growing backlash against Donald Trump's Greenland tariff threat. What world leaders are saying about the U.S. president's plans.
It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation.
The emergency meeting and how European countries are responding with threats of their own.
Greenland's not for sale!
The water contamination crisis keeping hundreds far from home.
No showers, you can't drink the water, not even the filtered.
Their message to the federal government. And a final push for the Olympic podium.
We've accomplished so much in our career. The lingering thing is one last medal.
High hopes for Canada's ice dancing duo and what they've overcome along the way.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin with the pushback to U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose tariffs on 8 European countries which oppose his plans to take over Greenland. The Danish Prime Minister saying Europe won't be blackmailed as leaders weigh their response. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has Mark Carney's reaction as he weighed in from Qatar.
It is this massive Arctic island U.S. President Donald Trump insists the U.S. needs to own, but Trump's push to punish allies in his quest to take over Greenland is being met with trepidation.
It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation.
Prime Minister Mark Carney defended Greenland's sovereignty and security today, insisting Canada's position hasn't changed.
The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide.
In a Saturday night social media post, Trump threatened tariffs on 8 countries until a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. Sparking today an emergency meeting of European Union ambassadors in Brussels, the EU now said to be considering retaliatory tariffs. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Trump in a call today his tariff threat is wrong. A joint statement by the 8 countries says tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. We will continue to stand united and coordinated in our response. We are committed to upholding our sovereignty. Trump's threats could be a potentially dangerous test of the U.S.'s partnerships with European allies.
It runs the very real risk of doing lasting damage to the NATO alliance.
Trump's Treasury Secretary repeating today in an interview with NBC's Meet the Press that owning Greenland is essential to U.S. national security.
Make it part of the United States, and there will not be a conflict because the United States right now, we are the hottest country in the world. We are the strongest country in the world. The Europeans project weakness. The U.S. projects strength.
Denmark continues to pursue a diplomatic way forward with the U.S. over Greenland and is meeting with fellow NATO members to discuss the alliance's Arctic security strategy. Heather?
Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. Jeremy, thanks. The Prime Minister responding to this escalation while he's in Qatar, looking to get closer to an ally Canada sees as an increasingly important mediator in what Mark Carney calls a dangerous and divided world. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports from Doha.
Gestures of diplomatic respect fly throughout downtown Doha. 742 flags line the roads, with more projected onto the city's tallest structures. The backdrop fitting for a trip aimed at strengthening the ties of a relationship overlooked for years.
In this more uncertain and dangerous world, we've chosen to create greater stability, security, and prosperity together.
An elaborate ceremony at the palace setting the stage for a day of meetings, including with the Emir, the country's head of state. Carney says the 2 leaders agreed to improve trade access and investment in clean energy, AI, and defense. Qatar, who Carney now calls a strategic partner, will also make significant strategic investments in nation-building projects that Ottawa says will supercharge the energy sector. No details or firm commitments were revealed.
We are creating a framework to build, and we need investment above and beyond what's available here in Canada.
The visit comes as part of Carney's global push to diversify Canada's trading partners and become less reliant on the United States, a country who has threatened to impose increasing tariffs on 8 EU allies who oppose Donald Trump's plan to buy Greenland.
We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is.
The Prime Minister leaves Doha tomorrow for Davos, Switzerland, where he may get the chance to raise his concerns about Greenland directly to the U.S. president. Donald Trump is expected to attend the World Economic Forum, and so are several leaders facing his tariffs. Heather?
CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver in Doha. Annie, thanks. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he has agreed in principle to join U.S. President Donald Trump's new Board of Peace to support the reconstruction of Gaza.
We still do not have unimpeded aid flows, humanitarian aid flows at scale to the people of Gaza. That is a precondition for moving forward on this.
Carney says details still need to be worked out on how exactly the board and the financing will work. A former diplomat who was detained by China for nearly 3 years is criticizing Prime Minister Carney's decision to lift tariffs on Chinese EVs. Michael Kovrig told CTV's Question Period with Vashi Kapellos the move will have huge implications for Canada.
Canada broke ranks with the U.S. on Chinese electric vehicles. Even with quotas, the signal's big. Market access is negotiable under pressure. And so that teaches the Chinese Communist Party that pressure works, and it's likely to test that again.
Carney's recent trip to China was the first by a Canadian Prime Minister in 8 years. In exchange for lifting those EV tariffs, China is expected to lower tariffs on Canadian canola, as well as remove tariffs on canola meal, which is welcome news for some Canadian farmers. But there are other crops and challenges to consider. CTV's Alison Bamford now on the growing pains in the prairies.
Farmers are browsing some of the greatest gadgets in the field.
And then you split up the fan direction.
But shopping around won't help producers if their crop can't grow a profit.
Now we have to figure out what's going to lose the least amount of money.
The cost of production is up while crop prices have slipped substantially. Trade uncertainty and overproduction are driving the markets down, even with China's new trade agreement that will lower tariffs on canola and peas. Losses on other crops like wheat, lentils, and barley could be huge.
It could easily be $100 an acre. And $100 an acre on 10,000 acres is pretty easy math at $1 million.
Misery loves company.
Those coming off an above-average crop year plan to cut production costs just to break even if market prices stay the same.
It's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
For producers in the Southwest who've faced consecutive droughts, crop write-offs, and dwindling insurance payouts, another bad year could break them.
Young growers are just going to leave because if guys are just starting to get into it, there's no hope for them.
Current data shows abnormally dry and moderate drought conditions in the southwest corner, but there's hope in the weather forecast. A La Nina is expected to bring cooler, wetter conditions that could last until spring.
We're in a much better position than we have been for a while.
As always, the weather will be a big question mark, but if global trade uncertainty is resolved, farmers say they might have a chance to break even or turn a profit this growing season. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Saskatoon.
U.S. President Donald Trump has used national security concerns to justify imposing tariffs. But when it comes to critical minerals, the U.S. is using the same justification to back away from such levies. CTV senior correspondent Judy Trin takes a closer look at the leverage that gives Canada.
Tariff is my favorite word in the whole dictionary.
The U.S. president wields tariffs as a weapon to boost domestic production, but Donald Trump is choosing not to impose tariffs on imports of critical minerals he deems essential to the national security of the United States.
The problem you have with putting tariffs on critical minerals is that you will get less of them.
In Trump's proclamation, he acknowledges that the U.S. is 100% reliant on other countries to supply 12 critical minerals and 50% reliant for another 29. The U.S. needs access to lithium, copper, cobalt, and others to build its military weapons. It wants to reduce reliance on China for the processed elements, but the U.S. doesn't manufacture enough to meet its needs. So the Trump administration says it will negotiate with G7 countries and other allies to set a base price for minerals to ensure a stable supply chain.
Without a floor price, you won't be able to get these projects financed. So without a price that the government is willing to pay, parties aren't going to sign up to provide them. So they're not willing to build the plants that will produce the output if they don't know what they're going to be able to sell them for.
Canada has the critical minerals the U.S. needs. There are currently 56 mines, 26 processing facilities, along with 151 projects waiting for development. Negotiating a floor price could get minerals out of the ground faster. It could also give Canada leverage in trade negotiations with Trump, because China also needs the elements to fuel its transition to clean energy.
What we heard loud and clear is China is looking for reliable trading partners that don't use energy for coercion.
Hammering out an agreement on critical minerals will be separate from negotiating the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, which comes up for review in July. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
A collision between two high-speed trains in southern Spain has killed 21 people and injured at least 73. Officials say a train traveling to Madrid derailed and crossed onto the opposite track, where it crashed into an oncoming train, which also derailed. Two of the badly damaged coaches rolled down a 4-meter slope. The cause of the crash is under investigation. Wildfires raging across the South American country of Chile have left at least 18 people dead, destroyed hundreds of homes, and forced about 50,000 people to flee. Officials say high temperatures and strong winds are hampering firefighting efforts. Back here at home, only a few hundred people remain behind in Kashechewan First Nation. Most fled the community in northern Ontario because of a water contamination crisis. They're eagerly awaiting answers for when they can return home. And as Kamal Karamali tells us, it's far from the first time they've had to evacuate.
This small hotel room is now Talisha Wesley's temporary living space in Niagara Falls.
Use other hands.
With no idea
to make it feel like home somehow.
When she might get to go back home because of an ongoing water contamination crisis in her community.
No showers. We can't drink the water, not even the filtered. I was making juice, right, and I got sick. Everybody got sick. Everybody's still sick.
Hotels in Niagara Falls now housing hundreds of members of the Kashechewan First Nation while they endure a devastating water crisis. It's been just over 2 weeks since the fly-in community in northern Ontario declared a state of emergency. The remote reserve of more than 2,000 residents, most of them forced to evacuate.
Are you leaving?
Including Rebecca Friday.
It's an awful experience. It's a scary thing. This one is more like a shocker to me because it's a sudden thing.
Early this month, the community's water treatment plant failed. Fresh water systems contaminated, sewage creeping into homes, flooding the reserve's only clinic.
The sewage system, as we're seeing, is in fairly poor shape, and it appears that it hasn't been maintained to the level that it used to be maintained.
The First Nation has had to evacuate multiple times over the past 2 decades because of constant flooding from the nearby river that also continues to eat away at their already crumbling infrastructure.
The community has a relocation agreement with the federal government. The community wants to be able to relocate to a place that is, not experiencing these flooding issues, the water issues.
While the Kashechewan First Nation pushes for timelines for a new permanent home,
pretty much it.
Those who evacuated south with this message to Ottawa.
I would like for them to at least experience a day over there just to see what it's like, because it's really frustrating.
Trying to make the most, for now, of their temporary home. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Niagara Falls.
Coming up tonight.
It's about building community.
From the ground up, how Winnipeg plans to bring this parking lot to life. There are multiple weather alerts tonight for central Canada, including a blizzard warning that stretches from southern Manitoba into Ontario along the Great Lakes. These whiteout conditions and winds up to 80 kilometers an hour swept across areas southeast of Lake Manitoba, including Portage-la Prairie, Emerson and Steinbach. Other areas of southern and central Manitoba, including Winnipeg, were placed under a blowing snow advisory. Drivers are being asked to avoid travel until conditions improve. A long-planned Winnipeg development project is officially underway, transforming a parking lot into a multi-purpose space, breathing new life into the community while helping with affordable housing. CTV's Alex Carpa explains the new mixed-use neighborhood in the downtown could serve as a model for other cities.
A long-planned development called Railside at the Forks in Winnipeg has officially started construction. The plan is to develop this surface parking lot in the city's downtown into a mixed-use neighborhood.
Public spaces are not a nice-to-have. They are essential infrastructure, economically, socially, and culturally.
The full development is expected to be complete by 2040 and will offer up to 1,200 housing units. It will also have a daycare center, coffee shops, and pedestrian-friendly walkways.
At the end of the day, this project isn't just about buildings. It's about building community.
The vision of this development was to take this underutilized parking space and put much needed housing here, a model that some housing experts believe some other cities across the country could follow.
The vast majority of Canadians live in urban areas, and that's a trend that's increasing, right? We're urbanizing more, and that's happening around the world.
It's a step Daniel Foch says is away from the car-based world that Canada and much of North America was built on. He says utilizing these spaces is good, but there are some challenges.
The infrastructure is lagging in most cases. Canada is very bureaucratic, and we're not exceptionally good at bringing mass infrastructure projects into existence.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is promising more affordable housing through his Build Canada Homes plan, but a Winnipeg outreach worker says the plan should also include repurposing vacant and derelict buildings.
We need to make the best possible use of what we do have, and there should be a plan that protects, some of these older buildings.
Canadian housing starts did, however, rise 5.6% in 2025, according to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, as starts increased more than expected in December. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Still ahead, the big problems facing Canada's smallest province as its population grows. Canada's smallest province is getting bigger and pretty quickly. PEI is benefiting from the population growth, but housing and healthcare are struggling to keep up. It's a familiar pressure point across the country. CTV's Maria Saru on the question officials are faced with: how to balance the boom with the basics.
PEI's population has been climbing quickly, with newcomers filling job shortages and starting businesses. But community leaders say rapid change comes with challenges.
That strain is showing up in almost every theme that we see, right? It's showing up as affordability. It's showing up as health and wellness.
CFPEI's 2025 Vital Signs report shows 27% of islanders don't have a regular healthcare provider, compared with 17% nationally. Plus, housing has become more expensive and harder to find. The Immigrant and Refugee Services Association of PEI's executive director says newcomers are not the main source of the strain.
If we were to remove every newcomer off the doctor waiting registry, we'd still not be able to get a doctor. If we were to remove them all from housing, we still wouldn't have enough houses.
By late 2025, the province was home to over 180,000 people, a 1.5% increase from the year before. Immigrants made up just 7.8% of the population in the last census. That share may have changed, but he adds, PEI needs newcomers to plug gaps as its population ages and deaths outpace births.
They're helping to solve the problem with us.
But lower federal targets have trickled down, slowing international immigration to the island. Now, fast-growing municipalities say they support a more targeted approach.
Bringing the people in that we need, the healthcare workers, the construction workers, the people who are going to address some of our needs, as well as the migrant farm workers.
The biggest message from leaders is the province must plan ahead so it's not playing catch-up. Maria Saru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
American tennis great Venus Williams continues to prove age is just a number. Williams set a record, becoming the oldest singles player to compete in the Australian Open at the age of 45. She went on to lose the first round match in 3 sets to Serbian Olga Danilowicz, but left the court to a roaring applause from fans in Melbourne. Still ahead, Olympic medal contenders. What these Canadian ice dancers are sharing just weeks ahead of the Games. Finally for us, the Canadian ice dancers seen as contenders for an Olympic medal in what could be their last season together after a very long 14-year run that had its challenges. Here's CTV's John Benavalli-Rao with more on Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier's dreams of finally medaling at the Games.
So our first competition is the opening ceremonies day, which was the 6th.
We got the chance to talk to this delightful duo at their practice rink in Toronto.
We're just so excited about what's coming up. It's such a incredible opportunity to represent Canada at the Games.
Ice dancers Piper Gillis and Paul Poirier training about 5 hours each day, gunning for their first Olympic medal after gracing the ice together for 15 seasons.
We've accomplished so much in our career. We've won some major events, and I think that's something to be proud of. But I think the lingering thing is one last medal at the Olympic Championship.
Here they are competing back in 2012. Since then, winning the Canadian Nationals 5 times, most recently last weekend. They also appeared together at the Olympics in China and South Korea, but both times failed to reach the podium. Now about to try again in what's likely their last season and last Olympics, and they're seen as major contenders to medal in Milan.
We did these last 4 years because we wanted that medal.
We've been training for this for a really long time, and we feel so ready and confident, and that's such a nice feeling to have.
The pair won silver at the last 2 World Championships, a success all the more remarkable considering Gillis found out she had stage 1 ovarian cancer 3 years ago. She had a successful surgery, but is still checked every 6 months.
I had an ultrasound last week, and I see my doctor next week, and it's like, it'll be so nice right before the Olympic Games that we'll be all in good spirits.
Gillis's mom died of an aggressive form of brain cancer in 2018, and she says she skates in her honor.
I do miss her at competitions. I do miss hearing my mom screaming in the stands.
But she says she still feels her mom's presence and will in Italy, where this pair may well have their final dance as they go for gold. John Benavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
And that opportunity just a couple weeks away. That is our newscast for this Sunday night. I'm Heather Butts. Thank you for watching. Sandy and Omar are back tomorrow, and I will see you again on Friday. Good night.
Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Weeknights at 11. Watch live on Crave.